Hi, this is Lou Peck, Managing Director and founder of the International Bunch. I'm delighted to be talking to you today about going solo, becoming a freelancer. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about is very much my experience and my expertise from when I became a freelancer. And to give you some hints and tips and ideas about things that you could do if this is something of interest. Now, you may just be thinking, oh, this is something I'd like to explore, or you actually want to give it a go. So the things that I want to cover today are: why would you become a freelancer? The challenges that you'll face, the successes that you can have, some top tips I can give you from my learned experience, and also the final word, my final word. Okay, so let's begin. Now, why would someone think about becoming a freelancer? Well, there are a number of different reasons for that. It could be an involuntary decision, so it could be to do with redundancy, or you lost your job, for example. It could be that you're looking to have a change of scene from what you're doing at the moment, maybe a completely different area of where you want to work than what you're currently working in. Maybe it's something to do with your quality of life, and this is your work-life balance. So you could be in a job that's incredibly pressured and you find that your work-life balance is really poor and you're working more than you are having a life. So it's important that you want to address that. You could be looking to develop your skill set in a different area. You could be working for an organization, let's say, for example, that you very much specialize or are focused in a certain area, or even you're looking to broaden your reach and your experience in a different area, something that kind of really excites you, that gets that fire in your belly burning. Maybe you're looking to return to work, so you could have taken some time off, you could have been caring for someone, you could have been looking after your family, you could have taken time off because of sickness. There could be lots of reasons why you're returning back to work. And this is something that you want to explore. You could be really unhappy with the job that you're currently in, and you're just thinking, what else can I do? Let's have a think about what are the other opportunities. I feel really stuck in a rut in what I'm doing, but I'm scared to do anything else. And maybe lastly, you're looking for a new role, looking for something new to do. So when I initially became a freelancer, I actually was made redundant. And I've been made redundant twice in my working career. And the first time I actually took a 6-month career break, and I did dog walking and dog home boarding. And it gave me the opportunity to get outside in the wind, the rain, the snow, the sleet, the sun, to go in the sea with the dogs. I was out walking about 8 dogs at a time and took my own dogs with me. So they had a ball, and I just really did address my work-life balance. And it was a fantastic 6 months that I was really burnt out at when I was made redundant. I was working incredibly hard because I was scared to be made redundant, which made me work even harder. So actually being made redundant was a bit of a godsend. And the second time I was made redundant, I decided to set up on my own. And I felt it was a really brave, bold decision, and I was really scared. But actually, it's the best decision I've ever made in my life, and it really suited me. So let's talk about the challenges that you can face as a freelancer. When you first start out, I'd say that you should have a priority list of all the things that you're going to work on, and you have literally prioritized them with the most priority at the top. And you really need to get moving on those priorities, and don't get yourself bogged down with things that you really shouldn't be concentrating on. And some things on your list, listen, they're never going to get done. You can't get everything on your hugely expanding list that never seems to get smaller. And that's okay. It's all about the priorities. Be smart with what you're doing. If you're not working, you're not earning. And so that can be really challenging for you when you're a freelancer. So be smart with what you're doing. And I'm going to reference this a few times. It's really important that you are as effective and efficient as you possibly can be, very lean when you're working, very agile, be flexible, and make sure that you are, if something isn't working, that you recognize that and you stop doing it, or you change it so that it is more effective. It's how you position yourself, and that can be really challenging because people forget this, and some people don't even know this, but every person has their own different life experiences and interactions and work experiences and interactions. No one person is the same. You are unique. And you need to remember that, because you bring a specific skill set to the table that someone else won't have. When you start out, you kind of think, right, like I did, right, I'm a marketeer, I'm multi-skilled, I'm really strong on the strategic side, I can do lots of different channel marketing, I can do social marketing, direct mail, email, events. You know, if you think about the umbrella term of marketing, I could do practically everything underneath. Some areas I was specialist in, some areas I wasn't. So when I started out, I tried to be everything for everyone. And then what I worked out as we went forward is actually what areas should I specialize in. And of course, there are going to be areas which are going to be like your cash cows. And they may not be very exciting, but they're going to make sure that you've got regular work coming in. So it could be content related, for example. But you really need to find the areas that you are specifically going to focus in and be strong in. And know exactly what you're offering. So if someone says to you, what is it you do? You need to be really clear that you can answer that in a sentence. And when you think of something like an elevator pitch, which is where you go into an elevator with someone and you literally have 30 seconds or a minute to explain what you do, that's what you've got to think. And it's got to be really impactful, and it's got to be very clear. So know exactly what you're offering. Just practice it with someone, or say to yourself, what do I do? And then write it down, refine it, and then learn that, so that when you speak to people at conferences, at networking events, on the phone, whatever it is, and they say, hey Lou, tell me what it is you do, you can say exactly what you do. When I first started out, I created the role for myself as publishing and marketing consultant, and that doesn't always really resonate with people, and that's like an idea of trying to be everything for everyone. Yes, I've been in the publishing industry for 18 years, but also I've been doing marketing for 20. So I want to make sure that you realize that I'm a publishing and marketing consultant, where really I was a marketing consultant specializing in the academic publishing industry or in scholarly publishing. Though I also worked really closely with a lot of librarians and libraries. So it was like, okay, so who exactly is my market? So when you think about your title, think about something that's really going to resonate. You can put consultant at the end of it. In fact, you can have whatever name you like, really, but it really needs to resonate with someone so that they know exactly what it is that you do. And because I set up my business, I also had called myself later on founder, because I wanted people to know that I was the main person that they needed to speak to. Understand your competition, know who they are, know what they're offering. You'll have some clients that will potentially share with you the type of costs that they would expect to pay for different services if you're in a service environment, or if it's product related. So make sure that you're speaking to your market. Also, I find that many of my competition are really approachable and friendly, and we chat about different things. So just get a better understanding of your marketplace and what exactly your competition is offering. And also go to their websites and have a look at how they're positioning themselves. What are the keywords that they're using? What they're talking about in their collateral, and what kind of campaign work they're doing to market their own business. And you can also look outside your competition to find some really innovative, exciting ideas of how other people might be marketing themselves. Be confident in what you do. That's really important when you're speaking to people, that you are confident in what you're saying, that you believe in what you're saying. Because at the end of the day, you are your own salesperson. I inwardly suffer from lack of confidence. Outwardly, I don't necessarily project that. Sometimes I do in some situations, but most of the time, people will say to me, well, you're really confident, Lou. Well, actually, I really struggle with things inside, and I'm not necessarily. I'll walk into a room at a conference and think, oh my gosh, I don't recognize anyone here, or the person I do recognize is talking to someone else. What am I going to do? Big deep breath, just go and talk to someone, listen to what they're saying. You'll find out some great insights and snippets of what's going on in the industry. You'll get to meet new people. Just do it. Take a big deep breath and do it. Learn from your experiences and refine to work smart. And I touched on this earlier, but this is very much about you making sure that if something isn't working, you either A, stop doing it, or B, you refine it so that you're working more efficiently and you're working smarter. Your time as a freelancer is incredibly precious. And when you're not working, you're not earning. So you need to make sure that you're using your time as effectively as possible. Sometimes you have to be brave and you have to stop doing something that you have historically always done but been too scared to stop doing. And what you may also find is that when you start out, you will be very much thinking about how you used to work with your existing companies and the restrictions that they had put on you, or the guidance that they had had around certain situations, and you realize that you're your own boss and actually it's okay to change things. You're answering to yourself. You can seek opportunities to partner with others, whether those are other consultants in the industry or other agencies. You can look around and see whether there are any other partners out there. Sometimes you'll find that there are other consultancies out there who would like to sign you up on their books, whether in a pool of freelancers to approach you about getting involved in a specific project when there's one that matches your skill set and your costs, or they actually want to sign you up as an associate. And you hand your client list over to them, but they will commit to giving you a certain amount of work. What I would probably recommend there, and this was recommended to me when I first started out by another consultant who was absolutely brilliant, or who is absolutely brilliant, I should say, but was really brilliant in helping me to give me advice when I first started out. And he said to me, go out on your own first and then sign up to someone else afterwards if you want to. And that was the best advice that he ever gave me, because I was able to build my business on my own. So with these partners, have a chat with them. Even if they're your competitors, it doesn't matter. You may find, hopefully, if you're in the same industry that I'm in the scholarly publishing industry, that your competitors who are other consultants or other agencies or other consultancies are actually incredibly friendly and very open to talking, and there's a possibility of you joining together to improve the skill set for tendering, for example. Be part of listservs or online communities, groups, to make sure that you're keeping informed of what's going on. So also you could sign up to newsletters. But if you're part of online communities or listservs, you can also participate and give your feedback and really position yourself as someone that knows what they're talking about, dependent on exactly what you're going to be offering. And this is when we talked about finding your purpose and knowing what you're offering. Identify the risks and have a plan. So there may be some risks that you have around, for example, a client not paying you on time. So you could look to do a deposit and installments if the job lasts over a certain amount of time, for example. We're going to cover those in a moment, but really just identify some key risks that could be very impactful negatively to you and what you're looking to do, and see if you can potentially counter those. And prioritize and attend events where your clients will be. You'll only have a certain amount of money that you'll be able to do this, but do have a look and say, which are the events where my target audience is going to be, where I can make the most impact and I can meet the most people, because you are your only salesperson. When you freelance, you become accounts, sales, marketing, all these different areas that you used to rely on in a business, you become that person. And some of us will do a great job at having strength in some areas compared to others. It just depends on the person that you are. So you may find that in the past there are some events that you love attending, and I found this myself, that I kept going to an event that I really loved attending, but I noticed that actually my target audience weren't necessarily there. And I really began over time to identify who exactly my target audience was. And so I decided to change the events that I was going to, so that I am ensuring that I am networking and positioning myself with the right people. And also this is the same for the member organizations that I was part of. And I may sometimes say was, but that's because I was a consultant, a freelancer who was self-employed. I was a sole trader, but earlier this year in July, I actually left being a sole trader and started up a company. So now, rather than it being me, it's we. So your reputation is everything. When you partner with others in the industry, let's say you're tendering for a contract, make sure that they have a really good reputation, because your reputation is everything for you. And if anything happens to damage that reputation, it'll be incredibly detrimental for you. So just ensure that you are thinking about and protecting your reputation. And this could also be you joining up with another consultant that you know has been made redundant recently or lost a job, and you really like them in their work environment, and they were a good friend of yours, but you know that sometimes they can be a bit slow to respond or not very good at hitting deadlines, etc., etc. And if you've got a great way of working together and you're managing certain parts of that to ensure that you do meet the deadlines with your client and you are managing expectations, great. But if you think actually they're going to be too much to handle and I can't work with them like that, because I know that ultimately we're not going to be able to deliver together because they take a lot of management and looking after, then you shouldn't work with them. This is also where you find that friendships and business don't always go together. Support-wise, you'll really be looking for what support's available to you. And what you may find is that you have local networking groups. Now, with what I've done, my target audience isn't local. My target audience is regional, is national, is really global. I don't look to do marketing services for my local butcher shop. I work with big global publishers, small university presses, library publishing. I work with all different sizes of clients and also service providers, but they'll be anywhere in the world. But it's really good to be involved, or at least involved in one local networking group, just because if you needed to have anyone locally to rely on to help you with a specific project, you've got that skill set there. Or if you're just basically looking for some support about how you do something and you don't want to be forever working on your own. There are examples of member organizations and government-funded organizations, business-related organizations that are there to support you. I live in Wales in the UK, and so for me, Business Wales is one that's here that's funded to help us with our businesses. Another one is Federation of Small Businesses. You pay them an annual fee, and then you've got access to legal, for example, support, and lots of different areas, which is a really nice thing to have as a safeguard. And they've got a telephone number you can call for support for different things. There also, you'll find there are free subsidized courses available, whether that's through one of those organizations that I just touched on, or you can find them online. I remember when I was made redundant, I decided to improve my digital marketing skills. So I did the Google Academy certification, which was a really interesting course, and it was free. You'll find these bigger companies, they offer these kind of subsidized or free courses. So have a look what's around that's of interest to you, and that's really going to help develop your skill set, especially if you're looking to specialize in a specific area. Legislation-wise, you really have to be thinking about GDPR. You have to be thinking about how you manage your data, very much with those regions that you will be looking at data. It's really, really important. Maybe you're in the US and you think, well, I don't need to be looking at GDPR because here in the US, when, for example, we have a newsletter, the opt-in box can already be ticked, but actually in many other countries throughout the world, that's not appropriate, and it has to be a box that people specifically tick to opt in. What I will say is to have, if you're looking to have a more global approach, or you're trying to not have regional specific kind of criteria, then why not go with what's out there that's the most stringent, like, for example, GDPR, and just follow that as best practice. Compliance, dependent on your industry, you may need to comply with specific different legislation and also have relevant insurances. So make sure that you are aware of what you need to comply with, and those member associations can be really helpful there that you can join. Also, in terms of, like, if someone comes to your office and they fall over, you have to have the appropriate insurance. You have to have professional indemnity insurance. If you give advice to a client and then they will sue you because your advice led to something negative happening where they lost revenue. So just ensure that industry dependent, you have your relevant insurances. Think about your trading status. So when you start out, do you want to be self-employed? So do you want to be a one-man band? Or do you want to register yourself as a company, for example? I started out self-employed as a one-man band. I was really fortunate that from someone that I'd worked with who was a client, offered me some maternity cover, which turned into me doing lots of different project work for them, and continues to happen nowadays with the International Bunch, which is my company. And I registered the company, in July 2019, and so now we're a company. Attracting business, this is always really important because you need to make sure that you've got a really good pipeline ahead of you. So discover the best social platforms and set a budget. And the reason I say social or online platforms is that you've got a way here of recognizing and reviewing your cost and your ROI, your return on investment. There's no point you doing something if your return on investment is really poor. At least when you do things in a digital environment, you'll be able to track the specific metrics and see what I did it actually work? Was it worth it? Am I getting money back from doing this? Or am I just spending money and it's not bringing me any return? Find out industry statistics and use those as benchmarks so that you know that what you're doing is working, and also how you're performing. And this is where I talked about tweaking things. So stop doing something that you're wasting money on. Be smart, be effective and efficient with your time, and use those industry benchmarks to say, well, others in the industry generally found that their open rates were this, and we're finding our open rates are this, for example. Reach out to your community, your network, people that you've worked with in the past, people that you've met at conferences and events. Let them know that you're now freelancing. If you don't tell them, they won't know. And you can send them an email to let them know, but it's always good to give people a call. So have a priority list of those people that you want to target first. So ensure that you build a contact list with those key targets. You've really got to think about who is going to be my key target audience, and who from that key target audience do I already know and have an established relationship with that I can just phone up for and have a chat with and just say to them, look, this is what I'm looking to do you have anything, etc., etc. You've got to think about whether you have a local, a regional, national or global reach. I mentioned earlier, I work on a global reach. but you may want to have a local reach, for example. When you're looking to attract business, you've got to be thinking about how you're positioning yourself and what you're giving to them when you meet them. So you've got to be thinking about your business cards, having a website. Websites are incredibly important because they're an online shop that's always open and always available. Looking to make sure that you have your SEO set up correctly, your search engine optimization on your website so that you can be found, that you have a really good online presence, that if you've got relevant social media channels that you use, that you're committed to using those social media channels and you are consistently and regularly posting on them. That's incredibly important. Also, that you're listed in Google Maps. That you're doing your relevant marketing activities, but also your sales activities, that you're following up on the work that you're doing, the emails that you sent out, that you're actually contacting people, because you can't say fairer than speaking to someone and actually finding out snippets of what's happening in the industry and get a real sense for what they are looking for. Listen to what they're saying, ask them the right questions, open-ended questions, not closed questions. There are lots of different ways of doing sales, for example. So you need to find something that works effectively for you. I could go on and talk to you about a sales cycle, but I think that that's a separate session, to be honest. Okay, so let's have a think about income. I mean, challenging, hugely important. What I did when I was self-employed, I had a separate bank account from my main account, so I knew exactly what I would spend on my business, what was coming in from my business. And that also had a separate account for sending my tax to, or actually send the tax direct to your tax authority, so that you would make sure that when it comes to the end of the year, when you do your accounts, you're not having to give them a load of money that you don't have. You should be putting that money aside. So for example, in the UK, when you earn up to a certain amount, you're putting like 20% aside, plus a certain percentage, which is for paying national insurance. And if you earn over a certain amount, anything over that amount that you're earning becomes 40%. So what I found easy was just to send it straight to the taxman, and then I wasn't worrying about it or dipping into it should I have needed to. I just knew that I felt secure that I had paid what I thought was right, and if there was any difference, it wasn't going to be as bad as it would have been if I hadn't been paying them. There are funding options available. You need to really have a look for these and find out what funding is available. It does take a little bit of searching, but also those member organisations that you work with, and a Federation of Small Businesses and Business Wales, for example, those type of organisations there to support you can give you advice as well, potentially where you could look for funding. And you may have some industry-specific funding opportunities available as well. You can mix and match. You can say, do you know what, I really want to go freelance, but I'm a little bit concerned, but I want to make sure that I've still got money coming in. So actually you decide to go part-time and then do freelance in your spare time. So maybe you work in a bar or a club or a restaurant, or maybe you work in an office, or you're doing, it could be, odd jobs, whatever it is. You could be just saying, I want to do dog walking, get out and about, but I'm only going to do that in my mornings, for example. Just a hint here, a lot of people, when they ask you to do dog walking, want you to walk their dog at lunchtime, and that can be quite challenging when you've got a lot of dogs on the books. When you're thinking about payments, you're looking at making sure that you're getting deposits, that you can have installments over a certain amount of time, that you are getting POs from your clients, especially when they're big clients, because sometimes without a PO, they won't pay an invoice. You've got to be thinking about the currencies that you're working in. Is your job quoted in dollars, for example? You've got to be thinking about the exchange rates. Am I going to lose money if I'm quoting in dollars and they're paying in dollars? There is absolutely potential for that. There are services that you can use, Stripe, PayPal, WorldPay. They're just some of the examples. They'll take a percentage from the transaction of the total cost, but they'll also have a set amount as well that they charge. So it's definitely worth looking into those for what's best for you. Most of my clients pay by bank transfer. Pricing, are you going to price yourself as by hour, a half day, full day, project rate? I'm going to be doing a separate session on pricing because it's there's quite a lot of information here, but you really got to think about how it is exactly that you want to be working. So you may find some people in their field, they'll have a per hourly rate because of the type of services that they're offering. Others may say, well, I only do a half day or a full day rate, and others may say, I only do a full day rate. I have a plumber, for example, and he, sorry, not a plumber, a tiler, for example, and he comes to me and if I need some tiling done, he says, Lou, I have a day rate and that's it. If I spend 2 hours doing the tiling, you're still going to pay me a day rate. And that's, you know, I'm agreeing to his terms because I know he's great, and I'll say, yeah, okay, no problem. Or you have a project rate where you want to work out the amount of hours it's going to be, have a bit of a contingency or a buffer in there for yourself. And then finally, you'll want to add a bit of profit onto that. When you're talking about your outgoings, you need to try and keep these as minimal as possible. So that's really unhelpful, but that's just come up like that. Let's just get rid of that a moment. Let's start that again. Okay, so we've got your outgoings here. Now, you need to keep these as minimal as possible, and you need to make sure that you are logging each and every expense that you do, whether it's mileage, when you're out and about and you've had to get a drink at a conference or some food, etc., etc., your conferences, your member fees, anything like that. You need to ensure that you are keeping a record of. And there are things that your accountant, for example, can help you, advise you on what you can offset against your tax. So sometimes you may find if you just say a standard, I'm going to give 20% to the tax man and I'm going to send it for every job to make sure that I'm covered, and then you may find that they actually owe you money at the end of it rather than you owing them money because of the offset of your expenses that you've been able to do. It really depends on your authority, what exactly your tax authority, what exactly you can offset against. So you need to become familiar with that or work with your accountant to help you. There are lots of services out there that you can use. I have found a number of services like QuickBooks and FreshBooks really good. I use FreshBooks for my invoicing and also for my freelancers who work with me to log their time, so I can have all that kind of stuff in one place. And then my QuickBooks is actually to do with all of my accounting. You can add receipts in there, etc., etc. And you may need to have services like accountants or legal representation. I have a solicitor that I work with for the contracts, for example. I have. Be smart, there's that word again. Research your suppliers and use free services wherever you can. There are lots available, and I'm going to cover those in the hints and tips section. With your office, really create a dedicated space. It's very hard when you work from home to separate your home and your work life, to shut that computer down at the end of the day or whenever you finish working and say, right, I'm in home time now. So create a dedicated space in your home and make sure that that is just for you to do work in. Working from home isn't for everyone. I've been doing it for quite a number of years now, and I really enjoy it. I have my animals around me. I can just get on with things. I can have music or whatever I want, the news in the background, however I want to work. But it's not for everyone. So if you find that you are a bit lonely, there are lots of solutions. So you can do hot desking, for example. Check out your local academic institution, your university, and see whether they actually have hot desking subscription available. Sometimes you can pay for a hot desk, a desk that you can sit at for, like, for example, I'm going to talk UK terms here, for like £20. But it gives you the opportunity to sit with others or go and work in a co-working office space. So you'll meet other people, and you don't have to do it all the time. It just gives you the option to be around other people and not always be on your own, because sometimes people can find it very lonely. And these co-working office spaces, they may actually have rooms that you can go into to have calls and meetings. Network with your industry and your local community. That ensures that you're getting out and about. And when you work freelance, you can work from anywhere. So actually, if you decide that you're going on holiday, but you still need to do some work, well, work while you're on holiday. Just ensure that you've got the specific set time that you're working, and that's absolutely fine. I used to work with someone who, when he went skiing, he used to work in the morning and then he used to spend the afternoon on the slopes. There are plenty of free and low-cost tools that you can use. There's lots of conferencing options. I'm going to talk about that in hints and tips. And you'll find that there are a number of different services. There are services out there that offer free trials, and maybe some services don't quite offer you what you were expecting them to. Okay, so we're going to talk about the good stuff here, the successes. Hopefully, you'll find that you're happy. You answer to yourself and only to yourself. Well, you do answer to the tax man, but you are answering to yourself in terms of your business. It's hard when you're freelancing because you are so many different people in one, sales, accounts, marketing, for example, but it can be really rewarding. When you find your niche and you find a unique offering, that can be incredibly rewarding. Finding your first client, it's like a huge step. It's like saying, okay, I've started this off, I've got someone, this is great. You may even find that the client that you were working with before, whether it's dependent on how you left them, may have an opportunity for you to work with them as a freelancer, as a consultant. If you went in a redundancy situation and you're still in that situation, you may find that you could negotiate with them now about being on their books and being as an approved supplier in their systems. Getting referrals and word of mouth, I mean, that's fantastic. That happens to us all the time through work I've done. And it just makes you feel amazing knowing that someone has the confidence in your company's abilities. Testimonials and reviews, that's really important. Make sure that you get those from your clients. You can always get them to put the reviews on your LinkedIn, and then you can then use those on your website. Just let them know that you're doing it, of course. Being offered a job by one of your clients, I mean, that happens to me, and you feel it's a fantastic feeling when that happens. But that means that you know that what you're doing is right. And also, the more that you work with different businesses, the more value you can bring to them in the future by the experiences that you learn on the way. Collaboration with key influential people, that's really important. That helps you with your positioning, and it also can really help you to increase the awareness of yourself throughout the industry. Involvement in more projects and increased experience. I mean, that's fantastic. When you get involved in lots of different projects, you start widening what you're doing, what your understanding is, your experience, your expertise. And then also expanding your business. So I talked about the fact that I started off as a consultant. I started off as Lupet Consulting. And then I turned it into the international bunch because I felt I needed to rebrand the business. And then I became a limited company in July. And we're now in growth and expansion and are going to go through recruitment phase. So what I'm going to finish off for these next slides is my top tips. And this is basically a summary of what we've been talking about. So the first steps, decide on what you're going to specialize in. Be clear on what you're offering. So remember I talked about the elevator pitch. That's where you get into a lift with someone or an elevator. and you've only got a small amount of time to tell them exactly what you do and what you're offering. So be really clear. Don't try and be everything for everyone. Think carefully about what you want to achieve in the future. Make sure that you have set out what exactly you're looking to achieve, what your targets are, what your goals are. And also think about your name. So I mentioned that I started out as Lupet Consulting, and I made that very specific to myself because people knew my name, and I thought, well, if they know my name, when they see that I'm attending somewhere, they see the Lupet Consulting listing, they're like, oh, Lou's here. And then as I started out and the work started coming in and I started having freelancers, a pool of freelancers that I'd worked with on various projects, I realized it became more about than just me. So I changed it to the international bunch, and then I became a limited company so I could grow and expand the business and start employing people. Pick a job title that better represents you. So are you a marketing consultant? Are you a publishing consultant? You know, what exactly is it that you are looking to let people know that you are, so that they clearly understand, like your offering and your elevator pitch, they clearly understand what it is that you do. See what support is available from your different local, national, regional, global associations, and what free courses you can do. Certainly at the beginning, when you first start out, you have a little bit more time on your hands. You're doing your research, trying to find stuff out. So, or you may have more time on your hands. It depends how busy you get. And so you have the opportunity then to do free courses. Speak to other consultants, get their industry expertise, their hints and tips, things that they've learned on the way, mistakes that they've made. Go it alone, as I mentioned before, or sign up to an agency consultancy. Go it alone to begin with, then sign up to an agency consultancy. Really, the choice is yours. It has to be your choice and what suits you and your lifestyle best. There are lots of free and discounted tools that are available, so research the right service for you. There's plenty of free ones. You can, for communication, you can use Skype, Google Hangouts, Zoom, Powwow Now. Those are a number of the different services that I use. For recording these webinars, I use Zoom, for example. Be smart. Work with local university colleges. See if there are any students that want to volunteer to be part of a project that you're doing. They may want to do it part of their coursework. Let's say, for example, you're looking for someone to help you to pull together a marketing plan, or someone to help you with design, and you're really supporting your local university or college by giving them an exciting project that they could work on. Maybe you're looking for someone to help to design your logo or to do a video. So get in contact with your local academic institution. Your reputation, make sure that you protect it and choose the right people to work with. Protect yourself and your clients. So this is like when I talked about legislation earlier. Something else here is that all of my clients sign up with a contract. There may be sometimes a client that has their own contract that I have to sign, but I make sure that there is a contract between us so we have a level of understanding. It's my standard client contract, and then inside that there's a mutual NDA. And then for my freelancers, they have a freelancer contract because I want to make sure that they know that they're paying their own tax and national insurance, for example, in the UK or wherever they are, that I am not accountable in any way. But also we have an NDA between us because we often have very sensitive project work that we do, and I want to ensure that I have confidence that my clients are protected. And also thinking about your insurances that you have in your tax. Learn from your mistakes, hugely important. Be strategic with your time, so think smartly, be efficient, be effective. Supplement your income or help to support your pipeline. So your pipeline is the work that you've got booked in the future. So maybe, for example, you could do maternity cover initially, or when things are quiet, you could look to do maternity cover. Maybe even for one of your existing clients. Develop your skill set. As I mentioned, there's lots of free courses or getting involved in different projects. There's lots of local support and networking. Don't get yourself too isolated. There's lots of people out there just like you, and you'll meet some really interesting and fascinating people. Work out your cash cow, so what's bringing you in the money that can sustain you moving forward to do the other exciting things that you want to do. And never slate your competition. If you talk negatively about your competition to a client, for example, or someone else, they will wonder, what does that person say about me when I'm not around? So never slate your competition. You never know, you might work with them in the future. When we think about sales and marketing, you can find freelancing sites if you need others to help you with specific things, whether it's design or someone to help you with your logo. We use people per hour a lot. There's freelancer.com. There's a number of different services out there. You can also sign yourselves up on those services so that you can offer the different things that you do, but it is highly competitive. Some people will undercut you. I, for example, will place a job on people per hour. I'll have a number of people that bid, but a lot of people who are bidding for my work will copy and paste the same responses every time, and they're not exactly reading what I've written, and I will add things into my project brief like, provide me with 3 examples of your work. And if they don't provide me with at least 3 examples of their work, then I know that they are not listening, or they're not properly reading, and they're just bidding for lots of jobs, and that's not someone that's interested to me. I want someone that's paying attention to exactly what it is I want and will pay very fairly, and those sites are really good for giving you an idea of what type of budget that you should have for specific jobs as well, so really helpful. Make sure that you are using Google and your website and your SEO to make sure that you've got good rankings. Bing, for example, do a search, use the different Google tools that are available and check out how you're ranking or what words that you should be having on your website. What kind of search words are used? Be committed to your social media. If you've got a blog, be consistent. Even if you're going to say, I'm going to publish a blog post a month or every 2 months or 1 a quarter, whatever it is, make sure that you're being consistent, because people will begin to expect that you will publish at around a certain time. And so just try and keep information going on out there and make sure it's relevant. Create and target your priority list, very important, and make sure that you're keeping into contact with them. And reach out to your network as well. Let them know that you're available and exactly what it is that you're offering. And look at what your competitors are doing, where they may be focusing more on to identify trends. But you'll also find that out from speaking to people and going to events. Be really creative in what you do. Stand out from the crowd. There's lots of really fun, exciting things that you could do to really stand out from your competitors. It depends on your marketplace and how competitive it is, or what exactly you're looking to offer. There's lots of ideas on the internet if you do a search. Make sure that you're really transparent and you're honest. If you've come up against an issue or you're not going to be able to deliver to a client on time, make sure you tell them as soon as possible and that you're really open and honest with them. Because if you're not, and then you don't deliver, that's only going to have a negative impact on yourself and any future business that you might get. Some things are way out of your control and some things are in your control, but at the end of the day, it's about managing expectations. It's harder to go up in price than it is to come down in price. So when you're setting your fees, make sure that you've got an idea of exactly how much you'll drop to, should you need to discount. But actually, if you offer a really good quality service, then why should you go down? Unless, of course, you're doing something where you're going to get multiple series of bookings of something like, for example, rather than doing 1 blog post, they say, well, we're going to do 10 blog posts, so can you do something with the price? Or alternatively, offer something in addition to the price that you've set, so that they go for that price that you originally quoted, but you're offering something in addition to that. But if you start low, it's very difficult to go up in price. Make sure you're managing your data responsibly. That is incredibly important. So have a think about data protection, about the legislation that's out there, the GDPR, for example. There's lots of free courses that you can go on, or sites that give you more information about GDPR. Log all your contacts, make sure that you have a record of them in your database, but also that you're managing that data responsibly. If you have a website that you create and you have a domain name like internationalbunch.com, it's actually always good, if you're wanting to look more professional, to have your email address with that domain name. So for example, lou@internationalbunch.com rather than lou@gmail.com. Register your name of your business. That protects your business from anyone else using that. And then for payments, I said this earlier, make sure that you get a purchase order, especially when you're dealing with larger organizations, to ensure that you get paid. Become an approved supplier. Sometimes that can take a bit of time, so you may want to try and get that done before you've even had a job placed with a business. Time is money. When you're working, you're earning. When you're not working, you're not earning. Well, I hope when you're working that you're earning, that you're getting paid for it, unless, of course, you're doing some volunteer work. Get a deposit if you need to have a buffer, if the job is going to take a certain amount of time, or get installments as well. Have standard payment terms. So, for example, you can say, pay me straight away, or you have to pay in 14 days, or you have to pay in 30 days. I find most of my clients sign up to the 14 days. Some will request 30 days, or some will have their own payment terms. And if they're a really important client to you and you want to be working with them, then you have to sign up to their payment terms. So your future, have a goal and work to it. You may find it changes. That's okay. Be agile. Change with things if you need to. It's okay. You can. You're your own boss. Go it alone or sign up to an agency or consultancy, which we mentioned before. Adapt. If something is not working, change it, because you can. Measure your output and reduce the inefficiencies. So just make sure that you're measuring your return on investment, that you're looking at the work that you're doing, and let's say, for example, any marketing that you're doing, that you're tracking your activities, you're finding out what's working, what's not working, and you're changing things around so that things perform better for you. Find other ways of getting revenue. So, for example, you could look at on-demand webinars like this. You could look at offering training, or maybe online resources or coaching. Though if you're doing things like coaching, you need to make sure that where possible, that dependent on what you're offering in terms of coaching, that you are qualified in those specific areas. And volunteer. I actually volunteer for a number of member associations that I'm part of. One which is I was invited to recently as a vice chair of a committee, and they are a specific target audience of mine, so really important that I'm out there networking and demonstrating what exactly the expertise and experience that we have. I like to give back to the local community, so I actually am a vice chair of a local committee for libraries, because I absolutely love libraries. And it's for a Wales committee. And also I am a mentor for Business Wales, so I help others in the industry, or in the Welsh industry, with advice and guidance when they're looking to do their marketing or grow their business, for example. So I'm giving back. But that can take up quite a bit of time, so do make sure that you limit yourself on exactly what is achievable and what you can do. Okay, so final words that we want to go to here. It's your choice what you do. I hope what I've told you here has been really helpful and insightful. And it doesn't have to be forever. So just because you decide to go freelance now doesn't mean you always have to be freelance. It's okay to change. Maybe you try it and a client offers you a job and you decide that you want to go back to working with an organization like that. It's okay. You do what you want and you do what works best for you. I hope that you've enjoyed this session. And should you have any queries, please do get in touch with me if there's anything specific you're looking for. We will be doing other sessions where we're going to be focusing on things like pricing and sales and marketing to give you more of an idea. But this was very much about thinking about getting started. So thank you so much for watching this and listening, and I wish you all the best.